Call us on 03030 80 55 55. Text 81771 or email the programme talk.back@bbc.co.uk.
Has Elon Musk gone too far? The world's richest person has been using his social media platform X, formerly Twitter, to promote the far-right German party, the AfD, Alternative für Deutschland, the Alternative for Germany party, some of whose leaders have been shown to have neo-Nazi links, even though the party publicly denies all those connections. Elon Musk is also targeting the Labour leader in the United Kingdom and other Labour politicians. He wants Reform UK to rise to power, though he recently called for Nigel Farage to be replaced as the leader, because Nigel Farage refuses to support the far-right activist and serial convict Tommy Robinson. Elon Musk boasts that his platform's algorithms and his cash donations gave Donald Trump the White House, securing for himself a place in Mr. Trump's new government. And all of that is giving politicians across various Western democracies a massive headache. It's one thing to hold radical views, or indeed to express them. It's another thing, many of them are saying, to use powerful online technologies and a bottomless supply of cash to try to crash those democracies through extremist radicalization and cascading misinformation so that your own political vision can then hold sway. The conversations are taking place. They are taking place in the chancelleries of Europe and around cabinet tables. Has Elon Musk gone too far? Is he now posing a threat to the stability of Western democracy? Is he a danger to national security? And some are even asking if it's time to act, to suspend X, as some countries have done, like Brazil, or ban it outright within those countries. That's the question I'm putting to you right now. Should the government ban X? 03030 80 55 55. We'll take your calls on that number. We'll take your texts and questions and comments on 81771. Femi Olawale is with us, an activist who thinks X is on a dangerous path. Jeff Dudgeon is in the studio with us, former politician, part of the Free Speech Union now, who says free speech is crucial. And Kevin Curran is professor of cybersecurity, who spends, he says, about 3 hours a day on X. God love you, Kevin. Welcome to all of you. Jeff, from a free speech point of view, can you defend what Elon Musk is doing with his platform?
Well, in a free world, you're allowed to say what you like and publish what you like. And there are plenty of regulations on, including defamation law, to stop people going over the edge. I mean, listening to your introduction, I think you've basically had him condemned and executed without trial, effectively, because the reality is that
I set out the reasons why we're having the discussion.
You didn't set out the contrary reasons.
No, that's what the debate's about.
Okay, well, I'm here to do that.
That's why I go to you first.
Okay. Well, just remind yourself, where is X banned? Just took out a list. China, Iran, North Korea, Pakistan, Russia and Burma.
And Brazil.
No, Brazil, they've undone their ban. The court removed the ban, so it's in suspense at the moment. To remove anyone, to regulate social media is a colossal headache, and the government, with its Online Safety Act, has already tried its best to do that, to protect people from excesses in social media, and particularly in relation to child abuse. So there is already legislation in place. To ban X now would require, well, it would take 3 or 4 years to get the legislation through. It would particularly suffer from court challenge.
Who knows, with such a whopping majority of Labour MPs, it might do emergency legislation.
There could indeed be emergency legislation, though, given that the travails that Sir Keir Harmer is involved in
Sir
at the
Keir
moment.
Harmer.
Harmer.
All right.
It's ruled by North London human rights lawyers. I get them mixed up.
Let's throw it over to Femi. Now, we have had some bans, Femi, in terms of communication. One thinks of RT, Russia Today, which was banned in the UK, and that had to do around misinformation and threats to national security as well. Are we in that territory?
So I'm not hearing any arguments against banning it. I'm just hearing arguments that it would be difficult to ban, and something being difficult doesn't mean we shouldn't do it. And in terms of how this is affecting the UK, Elon Musk is setting this up specifically to empower people like Tommy Robinson, somebody who referred to British Muslims as enemy combatants. We're talking about fully giving a leg up to far-right racists that want to destroy British society. And he complains about Keir Starmer, quote, locking up people for Facebook posts. What kind of Facebook posts are we talking about? We're talking about people that said, go burn down the hotels that have refugees inside. So actual incitement to violence. And this has been personal for me as well, because before Musk took over, there was an account that was inciting directly violence against me. So much violence, so much silence that he was one of the reasons that the Metropolitan Police during the Brexit campaigns put my telephone number on a special list such that if I called them, it was automatic blue flashing lights. That kind of account. Elon Musk not only brought back that account, but it's now a verified account. He is deliberately empowering the most dangerous people in society. He is a threat to Western democracy entirely, and so he should be given an ultimatum that you either reform Twitter completely or you will no longer have access to our country.
What would reforming it involve?
Basically taking it back to where it was, and even where it was not ideal, because accounts like that were still allowed to be there for a while until they were eventually deleted. So something definitely just basically undoing everything that he's done since. So bring back the people that were in charge of fact checking, not having just community notes, which is absolute garbage. Like a Telegraph journalist, I think it was Camilla Tominey, said after I pointed out that some misinformation she was spreading, which she obviously would contest, she then tweeted that Femi should go F himself. And so I quote tweeted her with explanations as to why she was wrong, and said, was she right to tell me to go F myself? And the community note said she was right. So that I felt that was kind of like Elon Musk literally telling me to go F myself. So yeah, it's not an ideal platform.
Kevin, when every conversation these days has to involve some reference to AI, artificial intelligence. As we take further steps down that path, do you think artificial intelligence is going to be our friend in the battle against misinformation and dangerous extremism and radicalization, or is it potentially going to make things even worse?
It's already making things worse, really. It's so easy for AI, for people to use it to generate content, which is just automatically generated. And of course, the models which train on data, of course, are having a problem because they're training on their own output, really, ultimately, again. So, but something has to be done about X, really. But of course, a lot of this goes back to Section 230, as you know, William, the 96 Decency Communications Act, where social media platforms are not held liable for the content, that they're not seen as publishers, and that's why that they don't have an incentive actually to moderate quite often, because then they're seen as a publisher if they moderate too much. But of course,
they're platforms rather than publishers, and they argue that they couldn't possibly comply with the regulation that would follow if you were to make them publishers. It's one thing to say the Daily Telegraph is a publisher and they're responsible for what they publish on a single website. That's you can do moderation around that, Kevin. How could you possibly do appropriate moderation on something the size of X or Twitter?
Of course, but yet it can be done. It just needs more, moderators looking at this again. But of course, ultimately, really, I mean, banning, I'm not saying yes or no, but it is extreme. But in other words, that there are methods again, and this really comes down to regulation. And Brazil stepped in. When he was overreaching, Brazil came along just a few months ago and said that they were seizing his assets as well until he rolled back. And of course, they paid their £5 million in fines. They appointed a legal representative from Brazil, which was asked for, and they complied with orders to deactivate accounts. And X complied. So it can be done. We have president here, again, that things can be done where national security is, or the national discourse again, and he's really overreaching in areas he does not know anything about.
Oh, Kevin,
and we can see that clearly.
Kevin, I guess none of us can really look into the soul of another person, even if it is the world's wealthiest person, like Elon Musk. But what do you think he's really up to with X? Is it really the creation of a free speech paradise, the offering to the world of an example of how free speech can change societies? Or is it about the bottom line? Is it about the dollar in his pocket? Is it about political change in countries to enable him to make more money over time? What do you think his motivations are?
X has a lot of good things. In fact, it opened up a discourse for people who were blocked out by what we say is the mainstream media. Even this week, of course, one of the biggest headlines was Mark Zuckerberg appearing on Joe Rogan and talking about what he felt was censorship by the US Democratic Party on posts, again, to do with COVID and whatever else, where X did offer an alternative view. So not everything on there is is completely a cesspool. So we do need these platforms again, which allow the left and the right to amplify, to broadcast.
The point was that President Biden enforced his position on X, and they acceded as with Facebook. And if you ban X, are you going to ban Facebook, TikTok, Instagram? Are you going to have an army of fact checkers who are basically...
Kevin was suggesting something other than banning. He was suggesting changing the status of these platforms so that they're considered publishers. We treat them like newspapers, treat them like the BBC, treat them like Sky News, put them under regulation by Ofcom.
Well, that's a reasonable position to hold, except, as you said yourself, it's probably next to impossible to enforce it. But they are subject to some law, and the Online Safety Act involves a degree of regulation and colossal fines. I think there's £10 million fines involved in that new act, which has already started. But the essence is that the terms of trade are changing. Trump is about to enter the White House. The world has changed. BBC may even have changed in relation to that.
No, I get it, but we're all desperately trying to catch up.
And it's now Musk. Trump is now like a nice old bloke, a bit like Nigel Farage, a helpful old cove. It's the evil Musk now, which is
well, if you ask Steve Bannon, we'll just see what happens.
And Dominic Cummings,
Steve Bannon, and others within the MAGA movement are really gunning for Musk now. He's been using the word evil about Elon Musk because he considers Elon Musk a globalist who wants cheap labor coming into the United States, completely inconsistent with the MAGA movement's policies.
He might be right, actually. And Dominic Cummings is a great project manager.
According to the papers today, they're on
lockdown, permanent lockdown. They're the same type.
I wonder what's going on with the worldview of Elon Musk. What is he trying to bring about? How is he trying to change our societies? Because no matter what your view on this is, I think we all agreed, he is trying to change things. He is trying to recalibrate the values of British society, of Canadian society, of Germany, of Italy.
And it's working, but he's also going with the grain.
What is he trying to do? What kind of society?
Austria's now got a far-right chancellor, the AfD, or
is that it?
Going to do very well.
He wants to bring on the far right.
That's the way the thinking is moving, and he, in some ways, is just reflecting that. Trudeau is out, Sturgeon is out, Jacinta Ardern's out, Leo Varadkar is out, but he's creeping back.
It's not just the way things are going. Some people are far right and some people are not. Femi, what do you think he's up to?
I think he's definitely trying to promote the far right and deliver far right governments. If he thinks that Nigel Farage, a man who has said a whole litany of racist and Islamophobic things, for example, recently he lied about British Muslims supporting Hamas, even though he was quoting.
Well, he's not here. I'm sure he would challenge your use of the word lied.
Well, he said that 46% of British Muslims support Hamas when he was quoting a survey that asked them to choose between Israel and Hamas.
He may have got something wrong there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a string of just mistakes innocently.
All right. But what do you think Elon Musk is trying to... Why does it help him to bring on the far right, to have more far right governments across Europe and the world? Why does he want that, if that's what he wants?
I think he partly radicalized himself. I also think that he's from apartheid South Africa, so I'm not entirely sure that he was raised entirely in the strong principles of equality, so that just might be his general worldview.
Well, that's a bit of a generalization. I've got family live in South Africa. They're not racist.
His father is linked to several things that were not necessarily particularly kind to the black people of South Africa.
I'm not going to judge someone by their parents either. Really.
I know,
but given that the apple has fallen to the point where he's now promoting Tommy Robinson, I don't think it's fallen particularly far from the tree.
Yeah.
As for his efforts in the UK, I would say that he actually has an uphill challenge compared to America and France and the Netherlands, in the sense that in the UK we have an advantage. We've already seen the far right's agenda play out to a large extent. The right has pushed in the UK for Brexit for 40 years, and they've pushed.
You don't have to be
up.
far right to support Brexit. Let's just be clear.
No, you don't. But the people who are behind. Let's be clear here. I never said that. I think the people who are behind Brexit, like Nigel Farage.
Oh no, I'm just getting ahead of the text messages that are going to cascade on all of me. You know.
They pushed for Brexit for 40 years, claiming that they were on the side of working class people. And now, not only do most people believe that Brexit has hurt them, but Nigel Farage and his
but
party.
It's people like you, Femi,
that
you insisted on a very hard Brexit. You made it hard for Brexit to happen, and we ended up with the Brexit.
Sir.
I'm going to give you 20 seconds, Femi.
People like Nigel Farage have already admitted that Brexit has made us poor. Members of his candidates of the Reform Party have said that Brexit is one of the reasons we're being poor, that they would make Brexit even worse.
Not what we're here to talk about.
That would damage our food supply.
That's how you use the 20 seconds.
The idea
I want to give
right
Jeff 20 seconds.
I think actually Femi has a certain point. Know people by their parents, and I suspect that Elon Musk is heavily influenced by his upbringing, and we understand his father. So that's an important point to look at, and I think he is maybe overdoing things in terms of Trump, and maybe
Manny here has accused me of defending Farage, and he says that's all it takes. That's all you need to know about talk. I was defending Femi from the lawyers. That's what I was doing.
Oh, right.
Femi, Jeff, and Kevin, thank you all very much. It's 1 o'clock.